The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime had witnessed many momentous decisions over the past 3 centuries. Wars declared, species uplifted, entire civilizations judged and found wanting. But never had the assembled delegates felt the weight of their choice as heavily as they did on this day. High Counselor Zethara of the Valdorian Empire stood at the central podium, her 6 arms spread wide in the traditional gesture of authority. The crystalline formations along her elongated skull pulsed with a deep purple light, indicating the gravity of the moment. Around her, representatives from 47 star systems waited in tense silence. "The vote has been tallied," she announced, her voice carrying through the chamber's acoustic amplification systems. "By a margin of 31 to 16. The Galactic Council declares humanity a clear and present danger to galactic stability. Military action is authorized." The announcement triggered a cascade of responses across the chamber. Some delegates chittered in satisfaction, others hummed in concern, and a few maintained the stoic silence that marked their species. Diplomatic traditions. In the observation gallery, high above the main floor, a smaller group watched the proceedings with professional interest. These were the analysts, the strategists, and the military advisors who would turn the Council's decision into action. Commander Vaxtel of the Hegemony Navy adjusted his tactical display, the holographic projections reflecting off his scaled hide. As the Council's primary military advisor, he had spent months preparing contingency plans for this exact scenario. His yellow eyes tracked data streams with practiced efficiency. Preliminary assessments indicate this will be concluded within 30 standard rotations, he reported to his colleagues. Human military capacity is adequate for a Category 3 species, but hardly exceptional. Dr. Ninara, the expedition's xenobiologist and behavioral analyst, tilted her insectoid head in what passed for agreement among her species. Her compound eyes shifted through several color spectrums as she accessed her research files. Human psychology follows predictable patterns. When faced with overwhelming force, they will seek negotiation. When that fails, they will surrender to preserve their civilian populations. Science Officer Koleth of the Syndicate Research Division extended several of his tentacles toward the data console, absorbing information through direct neural interface. Their technology base is indeed Category 3, fusion-powered vessels, chemical projectile weapons, basic energy shields. They have achieved faster-than-light travel, but their ships are slow and their weapons are ... quaint. The 4th member of their group, Tactical Analyst Morgan, remained silent, the cybernetically enhanced being processed information at superhuman speeds, but something in the data troubled her. Her metallic facial plates shifted as she reviewed human military history for the 10th time. Environmental adaptability coefficients are high, she finally noted. Humans have colonized worlds ranging from Arctic wastelands to volcanic hellscapes. They modify their technology to suit local conditions rather than terraforming to suit their technology. Commander Vaxtel's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. Irrelevant for military purposes. They have 17 worlds, 43 space stations, and a combined fleet of maybe 300 vessels. We're deploying 800 ships for this operation. Excessive force, Dr. Ninara inquired. Calculated to ensure immediate surrender, Vaxtel replied. Quick, clean, efficient. The humans will see our fleet strength and submit. No one wants unnecessary casualties. High Counselor Zethara activated the communication array that would broadcast the Council's ultimatum across human space. The message was brief and direct. translated into the simplified language patterns that humans seemed to prefer, to the leadership of the Human Colonial Alliance. By decree of the Galactic Council, humanity is found in violation of Statute 847A, rapid territorial expansion without Council approval. You have 72 standard hours to surrender your colonial claims and submit to Council authority. Failure to comply will result in military enforcement. This is your only warning. The transmission ended, and the Council chamber began to empty as delegates returned to their various duties. The real work would now fall to the military planners and diplomatic corps, but in the observation gallery, Morgan continued to study her data streams with growing unease. Something is inconsistent, she announced to her colleagues, such as, Vaxtel asked, though his attention was already shifting to deployment schedules and supply logistics. Human colonial expansion patterns. They claim 17 worlds, but censored data indicates active settlements on at least 43 planets. The discrepancy suggests either significant intelligence failures or deliberate deception. Dr. Ninara's color patterns shifted to indicate confusion. Why would they conceal the extent of their territory? Surely they understand that greater territorial holdings would strengthen their negotiating position. Unless Koleth suggested, his tentacles curling in thought, they don't intend to negotiate. The human response came 18 hours later. Ambassador Sarah Mitchell of the Human Colonial Alliance stood before a simple backdrop in what appeared to be a standard diplomatic facility. She was a woman in her 50s, with graying hair and the kind of steady gaze that marked experienced negotiators. Her message was broadcast on all standard frequencies, ensuring every member of the Galactic Council would receive it. High Counselor Zethra, distinguished members of the Galactic Council, we have received your ultimatum and given it the consideration it deserves. She paused, and something in her expression shifted. The diplomatic mask fell away, revealing something far more dangerous underneath. Our response is no. Let me be absolutely clear, so there are no misunderstandings. Humanity will not surrender our worlds. We will not submit to Council authority. We will not negotiate the freedom of our people. Another pause, and when she continued, her voice carried a note of steel that made several Council translators double-check their linguistic algorithms. You have declared war on humanity. We accept. You have 72 hours to reconsider your position and withdraw your forces from human space. After that, we will consider any Council vessel in our territory to be hostile and will respond accordingly. The transmission ended with Ambassador Mitchell's image fading to black, replaced by the simple text, "Message repeats in 47 galactic languages." The silence in the Council chambers was absolute. Did she just... Dr. Ninara began. She did, Vaxtel confirmed. The humans just declared war on the Galactic Council. High Counselor Zethra's crystalline formations had shifted from purple to a deep, ominous red. How many species have ever defied a Council ultimatum? In the past 3 centuries, Koleth consulted his databases. None, then perhaps. Zethra said slowly, "It's time the humans learned why." The first encounter occurred at the Kepler station, a human research outpost on the edge of Council space. It was a modest facility, housing maybe 200 scientists and support staff, the perfect target for a demonstration of Council resolve. Commander Vaxtel had assigned a single destroyer squadron to the mission, 4 ships, each one capable of reducing the station to debris in minutes. The plan was simple. Arrive, demand surrender, accept capitulation, establish council authority. Quick, clean, efficient, the hegemony destroyer sovereigns will dropped out of hyperspace first, followed by her 3 sister ships. They arranged themselves in a standard intimidation formation, weapons powered but not locked, shields at ready status. A show of overwhelming force designed to encourage immediate cooperation. Captain Harvest of the Sovereign's Will opened a communication channel to the station, Kepler Station. This is Captain Harvest of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You have 5 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Compliance will ensure the safety of all personnel aboard your facility. The response came from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the station's director. Her voice was calm, professional, and utterly unmoved by the presence of 4 warships. Captain Harvest, this is Dr. Rodriguez. I'm afraid we can't do that. This station is human territory, and we don't recognize council authority here. Dr. Rodriguez, Harvest replied, his tone carrying the patience of someone explaining simple concepts to a child. You have 200 people aboard that station. We have 4 destroyers. The mathematics of this situation are quite clear. Yes, Rodriguez agreed. They are. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The research station didn't try to run. It didn't attempt to negotiate. Instead, it did something no rational species would ever consider. It attacked. The station's main communications array suddenly swiveled toward the nearest council ship and discharged what could only be described as the most powerful electromagnetic pulse anyone had ever seen. The research station had somehow converted their deep space communications equipment into a directed energy weapon. The Sovereigns were lost all power for 17 seconds. In space combat, 17 seconds might as well be 17 years. During those 17 seconds, the station launched every piece of mobile equipment it possessed. Cargo pods, maintenance shuttles, even escape pods, ... all of them converted into kinetic kill vehicles. They impacted the destroyer's hull at velocity that turned simple metal containers into armor-piercing projectiles. Meanwhile, the station's industrial fabrication units had apparently been repurposed. Instead of manufacturing research equipment, they'd been producing chemical explosives. The station literally detonated sections of itself, hurling debris at the council ships with devastating effect. By the time the Sovereigns were restored power, the Kepler station had reduced itself to a expanding cloud of wreckage, and taken to council destroyers with it. In the observation chamber aboard the council flagship Eternal Dominion, the analysis team watched the tactical recordings with something approaching disbelief. Replay that section, Morgan requested. The part where they exploded themselves. The holographic display showed the station's final moments again. Humans could be seen through viewports, calmly working at their stations even as their facility tore itself apart around them. They knew they were going to die, Dr. Ninara observed, her voice carrying notes of confusion. The humans aboard that station, they knew their actions would be fatal, and they proceeded anyway. Perhaps they believed they could survive, Collith suggested. Negative, Morgan replied. Analysis of human communication intercepts shows they were fully aware of the consequences. Quote, "Remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them remember us." Commander Vaxtel studied the tactical display with growing unease. 2 destroyers lost, a third badly damaged, all by a research station with no military capabilities whatsoever. Status of remaining human. Installations, he asked. 42 identified facilities have gone silent, reported the communications officer. We're receiving no response to surrender demands. Dark protocols. Unknown, sir. But based on the Kepler station incident, Vaxdale didn't need the sentence finished. If every human outpost was willing to destroy itself rather than surrender, this campaign was going to be far more costly than anyone had anticipated. The second encounter took place at the Proxima colony, home to nearly 50,000 human civilians. It was a full planetary settlement with agriculture, manufacturing, and a small but functional spaceport, the kind of target that should demonstrate the futility of resistance. Commander Vaxdale assigned a full battle group to the mission. 20 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers and a battalion of ground forces. Enough firepower to level cities. Enough troops to occupy whatever remained. The humans had 3 days to prepare for the assault. 3 days that they used in ways no Council strategist had anticipated. When the Council fleet arrived at Proxima, they found a world that had seemingly gone mad. The planet's cities were empty. 50,000 people had simply ... vanished. Orbital. Scans detected no large population centers, no industrial signatures, no signs of the civilization that intelligence reports insisted should be there. Where are they? Captain Dexara of the heavy cruiser Judgment asked as her tactical team pored over sensor data. Unknown, her science officer replied. Infrared indicates some human activity, but it's dispersed across the entire continental landmass. No concentrations larger than maybe a dozen individuals. They're hiding in the wilderness, suggested the tactical officer. Primitive, but effective. We can flush them out with atmospheric scans. What the Council forces discovered was far more disturbing than simple hiding. The humans had spent their 3 days turning their entire world into a weapon. Every piece of industrial equipment had been repurposed. Mining charges became improvised. Artillery, agricultural processing plants had been converted into chemical weapon factories. Even the planet's weather control systems had been modified to create massive storm fronts that interfered with orbital sensors. When the first Council landing craft approached the surface, they found themselves flying through a hurricane that definitely hadn't been there an hour earlier. The landing ships that made it through the artificial weather encountered something unprecedented. A population that had transformed itself into a guerrilla army. Farmers carried weapons cobbled together from mining equipment. Scientists deployed chemical agents that could eat through military armor. Children operated communication networks that coordinated attacks across entire continents. They've turned their civilians into combatants, reported Colonel Mextar, commander of the ground forces. Not just soldiers, ... Everyone. We're taking fire from schools, hospitals, retirement communities. They're using their own elderly as spotters for artillery strikes. The battle for Proxima lasted 8 days. When it ended, the Council controlled the planet's 3 major spaceports and approximately 12 square kilometers of surrounding territory. Everything else remained under human control. Casualties were staggering. The Council had lost 6 ships and nearly 3,000 ground troops. The humans had lost an estimated 15,000 people, including civilians who had chosen to fight rather than surrender. This makes no strategic sense, Dr. Ninera reported to the analysis team. The humans are accepting casualties at a rate that should have broken their morale within hours. Instead, their resistance is becoming more organized, more effective, more concerning, Morgan added, is their adaptation rate. We've documented 17 distinct weapon modifications in the past week alone. They're not just fighting with what they have, they're improving their capabilities in real time. Commander Vaxdale reviewed the battle reports with growing alarm. Medical casualties among human combatants. 67%, Colonel Mextar reported, but they continue fighting. We have documented cases of humans with severe injuries continuing to operate weapons systems. Some appear to be using medical stimulants to remain combat effective despite wounds that should be incapacitating, and their treatment of counsel wounded. The colonel paused before answering. That's single quotes, ... complicated, sir. They're providing medical aid. Explain. Human medics are treating council casualties alongside their own. They've established field hospitals that accept wounded from both sides. It's militarily illogical. They're using resources to help their enemies. In the council chambers, High Counselor Zethera received the reports with mounting concern. The campaign that was supposed to last 30 rotations had already consumed 3 months. What should have been a simple police action was becoming a genuine war. Human fleet movements, she inquired. Minimal, reported the intelligence coordinator. Their main battle fleet remains in the Sol system. They appear to be ... waiting for what? Unknown. But our xenopsychology team believes they're allowing us to exhaust ourselves against their outer colonies before committing their primary forces. Zethera's crystalline formations shifted to a darker shade of red. Are you suggesting the humans are using their own colonies as bait? The pattern fits. Every engagement has cost us significantly more than projected. If they can continue this rate of attrition... The third encounter changed everything. The Council had decided to force a decisive battle by threatening Earth itself. The human homeworld, with its 8 billion inhabitants, was surely too valuable for humanity to sacrifice. This time, there would be no guerrilla tactics, no improvised weapons, no civilian resistance. This would be fleet-to-fleet combat, where Council superiority in ships and firepower would prove decisive. Admiral Kexaloom of the Hegemony First Fleet led 400 vessels toward the Sol system. It was the largest military force ever assembled under Council authority, and it should have been more than sufficient to end human resistance once and for all. Instead, it became the graveyard of Council military supremacy. The humans had spent the past 6 months preparing for this moment, not just building ships or training crews, but fundamentally reimagining how space warfare could be conducted. When the Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, they found themselves facing something that defied every tactical doctrine in existence. The human fleet wasn't arranged in battle formation. Instead, their ships were scattered throughout the system, mixed in with asteroids, space stations, and even civilian vessels. It was chaos, a violation of every principle of military organization. Tactical assessment, Admiral Kexaloom requested. Inconclusive, replied his tactical officer. Human fleet strength appears to be ... variable. We count approximately 200 military vessels, but there are thousands of civilian ships present. Many appear to have been modified with weapons systems. Modified how? Cargo haulers with missile launchers, passenger liners with energy weapons, mining ships with... We're not sure what those modifications are, sir. Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command opened communications from the bridge of the human flagship, Indomitable. She was younger than Ambassador Mitchell, maybe 40, with the kind of calm competence that marked career military officers. Admiral Kexaloom, this is Admiral Chen. You are entering human territory with hostile intent. Turn back now, or face the consequences. Kexval's response was everything Council protocol demanded. Admiral Chen, you are outnumbered Your technology is inferior. Your position is hopeless. Surrender now, and Council forces will ensure the safety of Earth's civilian population." Admiral Chen replied, and there was something in her voice that made the Council translator systems struggle with linguistic patterns. "You have no idea what you're walking into." The battle that followed rewrote military textbooks across the galaxy. The humans didn't fight like any civilized species. They didn't form battle lines or attempt to protect their high-value units. Instead, they swarmed. Every ship, military or civilian, became part of a three-dimensional maze of overlapping fire patterns and mutual support networks. Council vessels found themselves unable to engage specific targets because every shot risked hitting multiple human ships, including civilian vessels filled with non. The humans had deliberately mixed their military and civilian assets to create tactical paralysis. Worse, the humans had weaponized everything. Cargo containers became kinetic kill vehicles. Passenger shuttles carried boarding parties armed with weapons that seemed designed to capture rather than destroy Council ships. Even human evacuation pods had been converted into electronic warfare platforms. "They're not trying to destroy our fleet," reported the tactical officer as Council ships began falling to coordinated swarm attacks. "They're trying to capture it." Admiral Kexvolume watched in horror as human boarding parties seized control of Council vessels with shocking efficiency. The humans weren't just fighting, they were learning. Every captured ship gave them access to Council technology, which they immediately began modifying and improving. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the captured destroyer Swift Vengeance. It's from Commander Tolver. Put him through." Commander Tolver's image appeared on the main display. The hegemony officer was clearly in a human medical facility, receiving treatment for injuries sustained during the boarding action. Admiral Tolver said, "I need to report. The humans are providing medical care to all Council prisoners. Full treatment, no interrogation, no coercion. They're treating us better than we treat our own wounded." The implications of that statement hit the Council command staff like a physical blow. Admiral Chen Kexvolume opened a direct channel to the human flagship. "What do you want?" "For you to leave," Chen replied simply. "Pack up your fleets, go home, and never threaten human space again. And if we refuse..." There was a pause, and when Chen spoke again, her voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Then we'll keep fighting until you don't have any fleets left to threaten us with." "You're taking massive casualties," Kexvolume pointed out. "Your civilian losses alone, double quotes, are acceptable," Chen finished. "Admiral, you seem to think we're fighting to minimize casualties. We're not. We're fighting to win. And we're willing to pay whatever price that requires." The Battle of Seoul lasted 16 hours. When it ended, the Council fleet had been effectively destroyed. Of 400 vessels, fewer than 50 escaped to hyperspace. The humans had lost nearly 100 ships and an estimated 40,000 personnel, but they had won in the emergency session of the Galactic Council. High Counselor Zethara faced a chamber filled with panicking delegates. The greatest military force in galactic history had been shattered by a species that most Council members still considered primitive. "Status report," she demanded. Commander Vaxdell, his scales now a pale grey that indicated profound shock, consulted his tactical displays with trembling claws. "Total military losses exceed 70% of committed forces. Human fleet strength has actually increased due to captured vessels. They're reverse engineering our technology and integrating it with their own systems. Casualties. Council. Military personnel, Approximately 200,000 dead, 50,000 captured. Human losses, ... Double quotes, he paused. Estimated at 400,000 dead, military and civilian combined. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had accepted casualty rates that would have broken any civilized species, and had somehow turned those losses into strategic victory. Dr. Ninara spoke into the silence, her voice carrying notes of professional fascination and personal terror. Most disturbing is their treatment of captured council personnel. Full medical care, proper food, even recreational facilities. They're treating prisoners of war better than we treat our own citizens. Why? Zethara asked. Because, tactical. Analyst Morgan replied, her cybernetic systems processing data streams within human efficiency. They're not fighting us because they hate us. They're fighting us because we threaten them. The moment we stop being a threat, we become potential allies. Science Officer Koleth extended several tentacles toward the tactical displays, absorbing information directly through neural interface. Analysis indicates human military doctrine is fundamentally different from any recorded civilization. They don't fight to conquer, they fight to survive. This makes them exponentially more dangerous than species motivated by expansion or resources. Dangerous how? Zethara demanded. Because, Morgan explained, survival motivation has no upper limit. A species fighting for conquest will eventually calculate that the cost exceeds the benefit. A species fighting for survival will continue until they achieve victory or complete extinction. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of clicks, chirps, and harmonic frequencies as delegates realized the full implications of their situation. Recommendations? Zethara asked when order was restored. Commander Vaxtel's scales had shifted to pure white, indicating extreme distress. Immediate cessation of hostilities. Open diplomatic channels. Begin negotiating terms for alliance. Alliance. Several delegates demanded simultaneously. The alternative, Vaxtel replied, is extinction. Human industrial capacity is expanding exponentially. They're building new ships using captured council technology. They're training new crews using combat experience gained from our attacks. Every day we delay, they become more capable. Most critically, Morgan added, they're learning. Human tactical doctrine has evolved more in the past 6 months than most species develop in decades. They adapt, they innovate, they improvise. They use their environment as a weapon. They willingly sacrifice their own systems to achieve victory. They continue fighting when logic demands surrender. Dr. Ninara consulted her behavioral analysis files. Human communication intercepts indicate they view this conflict as an existential threat. They will not negotiate partial victories. Either they achieve complete security, or they will continue fighting until they possess the capability to guarantee that security themselves. You're saying they won't stop until they're strong enough to defeat the entire council? Zeth asked. I'm saying they won't stop until they're strong enough that no one will ever threaten them again. Ninara replied. And based on their current rate of military development, that may be sooner than we think. High Counselor Zethara activated the Council's emergency communication protocols. Her next transmission would go to every member species, every military commander, every diplomatic facility in Council space. By order of the Galactic Council, all military operations against human territory are suspended immediately. Diplomatic channels are to be opened with the Human Colonial Alliance at the earliest opportunity. All Council vessels are to maintain minimum safe distance from human space until further notice. She paused, looking around the chamber at delegates, who had gone from confident superiority to existential terror in the span of 6 months. Furthermore, humanity is to be reclassified as a Category 9 species. All previous assessments are hereby declared invalid. The chamber fell silent. Category 9 was reserved for species that posed existential threats to galactic civilization. In 3 centuries of Council history, only one species had ever been classified as Category 9, and they had been extinct for 200 years. Counselor, Ambassador Waiter of the Rigel Consortium asked, "What are the terms for negotiation?" "Whatever they demand," Zathara replied. "Whatever it takes to ensure they remain our allies rather than our enemies." The peace negotiations took place on Neutral Station, a diplomatic facility located in the empty space between Council and human territory. The location was chosen specifically because it belonged to neither side, reducing the chance of misunderstandings or perceived provocations. Ambassador Sarah Mitchell returned as humanity's chief negotiator, but she was accompanied by Admiral Chen and a full diplomatic staff. The message was clear. Humanity was negotiating from a position of strength. High Counselor Zathara led the Council delegation, supported by representatives from every major species. The entire galactic community had a stake in these negotiations. "Our terms are simple," Ambassador Mitchell began. "Recognition of human sovereignty over all territories, currently under human control. Formal admission to the Galactic Council as equal partners, and guarantees that no Council member will ever again threaten human civilians." "Acceptable," Zathara replied immediately. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "You haven't heard our other conditions." "I don't care what your other conditions are," Zathara said. "We accept them." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "We want access to Council medical technology. Our casualties were ... significant." "Agreed. We want full technology exchange agreements. No restrictions, no classified systems." "Agreed. We want joint military cooperation treaties. Council species provide support for human expansion into unclaimed territory." "Agreed." Mitchell and Chen exchanged glances. They had prepared for months of complex negotiations, but the Council was accepting every demand without discussion. "Why?" Mitchell finally asked. High Counselor Zathara's crystalline formations shifted through several color spectrums before settling on a deep blue that indicated profound respect mixed with carefully controlled fear. "Because," she said, "we have learned something about humanity that we should have understood before we voted for war. You don't fight like conquerors. You fight like parents protecting their children. And there is nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than someone fighting to protect what they love." She gestured toward the holographic displays that showed human space, now expanded and heavily fortified. "In 6 months, you transformed from a minor colonial power to a military force, capable of defeating the combined fleets of 47 star systems. You did this while accepting casualty rates that should have broken your civilization. You did this while providing medical care to your enemies. You did this while maintaining the moral principles that make you worth protecting in the first place." Zathara stood, her 6 arms spread in the traditional gesture of formal acknowledgement. The Galactic Council voted for war, and humanity answered without mercy. But your lack of mercy was not cruelty. It was absolute determination to survive. We mistook your compassion for weakness, your cooperation for submission, your desire for peace, for inability to wage war. We were wrong. Catastrophically, fatally wrong. The peace treaty will be signed as written. Humanity will join the Council as full partners, and we will spend the rest of our existence grateful that you are our allies rather than our enemies. Ambassador Mitchell nodded slowly. And if someone threatens Council space in the future, then, Zethra replied, they will learn what we learned, that humanity answers threats without mercy, and that sometimes that's exactly what the galaxy needs. The treaty was signed 6 hours later. Humanity officially joined the Galactic Council as its newest and most powerful member. Trade agreements were established, diplomatic exchanges were arranged, and joint military protocols were developed. But in the classified files of every Council military organization, new standing orders were issued, orders that would remain in effect for generations to come. Under no circumstances are Council forces to engage human military units without explicit authorization from the highest levels of command. Humans are not to be threatened, provoked, or given cause to believe their security is at risk. Any species considering hostile action against human territory is to be reminded of the Soul Campaign and its consequences. Humanity answered the Council's declaration of war without mercy. They accepted casualties that would have destroyed any other civilization. They turned their entire society into a weapon while maintaining the moral principles that made them worth defending. They are too dangerous to fight and too valuable to lose. Ensure they remain our allies. Because if humanity ever decides that the Galactic Council itself poses a threat to human security, the file ended there. The implications needed no further explanation in human space. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching construction crews work on the latest generation of human warships. These vessels incorporated the best of human engineering, with captured Council technology, creating something entirely new. Admiral, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth's command. Put it through." President Maria Santos appeared on the main display, calling from the Oval Office in Geneva. "Sarah, I wanted to personally congratulate you and your crews. The Council has ratified the peace treaty. We're officially members of the galactic community." At a heavy price, Chen replied, thinking of the 400,000 people who had died to secure that membership. "Yes," Santos agreed, "but they didn't die in vain. They died protecting everything we are and everything we hope to become." The galaxy knows now that humanity cannot be conquered, cannot be intimidated, and will not surrender. They also know, Chen added, that we don't want to conquer anyone else. We just want to be left alone to build our own future. Exactly. The Council learned that we're dangerous when threatened, but they also learned that we're honorable when treated with respect. That combination, it's going to serve us well in the years ahead. Admiral Chen nodded, then asked the question that had been bothering her since the peace negotiations ended. "Madam President, what happens if someone else votes for war against humanity?" President Santos was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the same steel that had marked Ambassador Mitchell's original response to the Council ultimatum. "Then they'll learn what the Council learned, that humanity answers threats without mercy, that we'll pay any price and face any odds to protect what we love, that we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy when we have to be, and the most compassionate when we don't." "Let's hope," Chen replied, "that the galaxy remembers that lesson." In the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, Tactical Analyst Morgan completed her final report on the human war. The document would be classified at the highest levels, available only to future military planners who might need to understand the true nature of humanity. Her conclusion was simple. The Galactic Council voted for war and humanity, answered without mercy. They fought not as conquerors, but as protectors. They accepted casualties, not from bloodlust, but from determination. They showed mercy to enemies, not from weakness, but from strength. Humanity is now the dominant military power in known space. But more importantly, they have proven that it is possible to be both utterly ruthless in war and completely honorable in peace. Any species considering future conflict with humanity should remember, they turned an entire solar system into a weapon while providing medical care to enemy wounded. They accepted 400,000 casualties while treating prisoners better than most species treat their own citizens. They are the most dangerous allies we could ask for, and the most terrifying enemies we could imagine. The galaxy is safer with them as partners. Pray we never give them reason to be anything else. The file was sealed with the highest security classifications available to Council intelligence services, but its final line was marked for general distribution to every military academy, every diplomatic corps, and every species considering expansion into human space. Remember the Soul Campaign. Remember that humanity answers without mercy when threatened. And remember that sometimes the galaxy needs someone willing to answer without mercy. The war was over. The peace had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.